But last week I took the time to go through, and I preached basically what's tantamount to an anti-war sermon about, peace. And you say, Pastor, is it biblical to be anti-war? I believe it is, and I'll tell you why. And I'm not saying there's not a time for war. We are not pacifists here, okay? I'm not a pacifist. These Mennonites and Amish, I had a Mennonite guy tell me that if a man came in his house and began to try to hurt his wife and children, he wouldn't take up arms. And I said, that's wicked. It's a wicked mentality. I told him that. I said, that's crazy. It's absolutely nuts. So there's a difference. If you study the Bible, you're going to find out that, when God set up a government, He didn't even have the government and the police force doing it. He had the next of kin. He had people like wearing a sword on their side, Nehemiah. And if somebody took the life of a loved one, the next of kin, would go and they would have bring vengeance. They called him an avenger. That's what the Bible calls it. You guys, some of you didn't know avengers were in the Bible. And they weren't wearing like spandex and capes and stuff like that. No, these guys were like old West type of guys. It's with a sword instead of a 6-shooter on their side, like gunnies, right? And it was their job to go and take care of business. And if somebody was murdered, they would go and they would kill him, and that's justice. So killing is okay, but only in the case where there's been a violation of our individual rights. Now, you know what? I'm just going to do this. I wasn't planning on this. This isn't in my notes. Turn back to Exodus 20. I'm just going to give you guys a thought or two here real quick as we go into. I haven't gone into my next verse yet. So, okay, I was giving you the recap, and now I'm going to end up on a tangent here for a second. Okay, now. I want you to think about the rights of individuals. Now, let's say, in the Bible days under the judges, which, by the way, is the way God established it. There's this phrase in the book of Judges that it says 3 or 4 times, there was no king in Israel, and every man did that which was right in their own eyes. Now, I've heard preachers misapply this many times, and they've said it, every man did that which was right in their own eyes, and that means that it was a horrible time and everybody was just it was total anarchy, and people were running around evil and doing whatever they wanted to in their own eyes. Well, so here's the thing. That's not what it's saying. It's actually a plot point, because it was written after there was a time after they had a king, and he's actually saying, listen, before there was a king, there was this time of liberty and freedom where people did whatever they thought was right in their own eyes. That's what it was saying. And as we tell this story, you might want to just keep that in mind. There wasn't a police department. There wasn't all these people. They had judges and they had prophets. And it wasn't like we have it today. It wasn't like when they had a king and all these armies and all this type of thing. It was a little different. And so they had set up 7 cities of refuge, they called them. And if you were to take the life of someone, then, you said, well, oh man, it was an accidental death, you would flee to the city of refuge. The Bible gives the explanation of like when 2 men are working in the woods, they're cutting down a tree, the axe handle flies off and hits the other guy in the head. That was not a premeditated murder. That would be what we would call manslaughter. And if that person, if that happened, the next of kin's coming after them, and they want to sort it out and find out what happened. Well, if they go to the city of refuge, the person that's chasing him and his posse that's coming with him is the avenger. They're the avengers, okay? The Bible uses that term. And then when they arrive, this person has found, basically shelter at the city of refuge. Now the judge that's there, and they'll actually have a jury. The Bible lays this all out, a jury trial. And if the man is found guilty of premeditated murder, we call it first degree, and the Bible talks about it. I forget the phrase it uses, having prior, I can't remember the exact phrase. But if that person was done wrong, and he was murdered, and there was it was like on purpose, or it was premeditated, we call it murder 1 or murder 2, I guess. Then they would just deliver him over after the trial to the avenger, and they would go and hang him or whatever they would do. But if he was found to have, if it was found to be an accident, then he would actually be able to stay there in the city of refuge until such time as, basically, if he left, they could still come and kill him. But if he stayed there, he was safe and he was under their protection, okay? Because it wasn't on purpose, it was an accidental death, but God makes a big deal out of murder, right? Now, the avenger of blood in the Bible, if he were to come, and I say all this because I'm taking you back to Exodus, and many people are confused about this because you have the 10 Commandments in Exodus 20. And if you look back, the Bible says in verse number 13, okay, thou shalt not kill. Now, I've heard people say that, well, you shouldn't be for a death penalty because the Bible says thou shalt not kill. But I don't think they understand the whole ramifications of that phrase, right? This is not just any killing. This is not saying, there always has to be some qualifier, okay? There has to be, so we have thou shalt not kill, but then you have God commanding death penalty for murderers, rapists, witches, adulterers, and a few others. And you could apply it to other things like people who hurt children and things like that. And so the law was pretty serious about it. So it's not forbidding all killing. And then there are times when there was war and there was fighting where they had to kill people in the Bible. So you have to balance it and understand what's being said. This is speaking of murder, without a doubt. Thou shalt not murder. Okay, and it's all through the Bible. I'm not going to go through all of this. So back to the avenger of blood situation, okay? We have to think about what is the difference. Now, let's take this example where you have a man who killed someone, and the avenger of blood is seeking their life. This was premeditated murder, and he's fled out. He's running from justice, okay? The avenger of blood's coming after him. Now, the avenger of blood now has every right, and let's say he stole something from him. According to the Bible, he would, that person, I don't think it's called an avenger, but he would have the right to have returned to him fourfold what was stolen from him. That was the punishment in biblical times. And there, like I said, there wasn't a big police department or anything like that and court systems to sort this out. So people were dealing with this on a personal, local level in a lot of ways, like in the city with the elders or whatever. Now, again, and I think we would be better off with this than giant government, breathing down our throat, massive taxation and all of this. But that's besides the point here. I just follow my line of reasoning here. So you have a man chasing after another man. This man is seeking justice. The avenger is chasing after. Now, if this man went into a group of people, right, and he's standing there with a group of people, and this man pulls his sword out, the avenger, and he begins to just, while trying to kill the man he has the right to kill, he kills 3 or 4 other bystanders who had nothing to do with it. Okay? Now, what has just happened is the avenger has now become someone who needs to be avenged. So once he's murdered, by definition. Now, I'm not talking about the people that are taking up arms with the guy standing against justice. I'm talking about he runs into a crowd. Let's bring it into a world today. Like, imagine if there was justice that needed to be done. There's a guy that was a murderer and we needed to take him out. But we'd take a machine gun and just fire into a crowd to take him out. Now, the person who does that, if he kills other people, that is murder, okay, biblically. I think that would be biblically murder. Now, this goes also to another level, I think, where, again, I think even war can be broke down to that, and that's why I just am so reticent. I don't like these giant wars between governments, between countries and kings and democracies or whatever. There's so many ulterior motives besides this, and it's somewhere there's been a failure of both sides to seek peace and ensue it. But I thought I would throw this out there too. Having followed that thought experiment, let's say the man went into a city and he was this bad guy that murdered somebody, and I have every right to kill him. You know, do I have the right to drop a nuclear bomb on that entire city and wipe out 70 to 100,000 people? So I have every right, like this, we shouldn't ban a sword. We shouldn't ban a gun. We shouldn't ban, because all of those weapons are weapons that can be used for evil, actions of aggression or force, violence against someone, biblical violence, or it also can be used to bring forth to justice in the hand of the avenger, right? And by the way, in Romans 13, it just, he refers back to the avenger, and he says it in Romans 13, he takes the A off, and he says how does it say? How does it say it? Somebody help me out here. Romans 13 references it. I'll get it real quick. Let's see here. A revenger. Yeah, verse 4. It says, he says that the government there, the authority there, is a revenger to execute wrath upon him that doeth evil. He beareth not the sword in vain. So that's what it's actually referring to. He's saying that the government in this case is supposed to do that. They're supposed, if somebody's murdered, okay, they have put themselves in the place of the avenger of blood. So if they're going to do that, that's their job, is to execute judgment on those that would, murder, right? Someone else. That's talking about basically a capital punishment. That's New Testament, okay? So we are for the capital punishment, all right? Biblically, I believe that's the case. But what I'm against is, and I think that any Christian should be against it, are weapons of mass destruction. We should immediately destroy them and ask every other country in the world to destroy them as a statement of good faith. And because germ warfare, biological warfare, even the incendiary bombs, the giant bombs, the Moabs, and all this type of stuff, there is no way where you can pinpoint justice on an individual, unless, obviously if they're by themselves in the middle of nowhere, right? But it's kind of, it's like, why drop a nuke on an anthill at that point, right? These are designed to do maximum damage, to destroy innocent life, innocent people, kill men, women, and children. And I don't see how a Christian could justify it. I just don't. I'm giving my opinion, and I know I've heard everybody's statements on it. I've heard the talking points from the public schools, from the videos, the propaganda war films. Like the Japanese, they were just so evil, they were going to keep coming. But their back was broken. They were completely cut off. Their supply lines were cut off. And we dropped a bomb, killed 100,000 people potentially. And then 3 days later, we demanded their surrender. They didn't give us an answer quick enough, so we dropped another bomb and killed another 100,000 people potentially. I don't know the numbers are exact. Then in 6 hours, we dropped so many bombs that we killed 140,000 people, not nukes, 140,000 people, firebombing. People were jumping in Tokyo into the canals to get away from the firebombs, and they were boiling in the water. It was so hot. It's unnecessary. That is extreme. That is wicked, and this is the wickedness of the total war. Modern warfare is wicked. All the bombs, all the drones, all this stuff killing innocent civilians, and it's just casualties. If somebody attacks us, you have the right to defend yourself, and you have the right to go after the people that hurt you or whatever. There's always justice and judgment. But I do not believe you have the right. The minute you start killing people who are not involved, you are now a murderer. They're weapons of mass destruction. They're weapons of mass murder. Okay? Germ warfare, God forbid. We had Dick Cheney talked about weapons. He talked about weaponizing viruses. You guys ever hear of race-specific bioweapons? Well, yeah. Yeah, the genetic code has been cracked, and they can release viruses that'll just wipe out certain ethnic groups. Is that exciting? These people, they're wicked. And you say, are you talking bad about the military? I'm not talking bad about the military. I'm talking about the people, the wicked people in the suits that would never go step foot on a battlefield. Their kids will never step foot on a battlefield, but they're going to come up with they are inventors of evil things. Bunch of stinking reprobates up there. And there's nothing worse than war on this planet. And I'll tell you what, dropping a nuke on people, on a city or whatever, that's worse than murdering babies in the womb. It's worse. There's no justification for owning a nuke. There's no justification for having bioweapons labs creating viruses to kill billions of people. Okay? There's no justification. Christians should be against that. I got that off my chest. Seek peace and ensue it or pursue it. Okay? If you disagree with that, I love you, and I'm not going to be mad at you, I promise. I haven't always felt this way, but this is my conviction and belief about it, and I just wanted to share that with you. Okay, now, verse